Radio.
Yes, we cannot wait. Comprehensive coverage, as always, on RTE across all the platforms. The big news ahead of Cheltenham came yesterday. Ruby Walsh deciding he was going to go with Faugheen in the big race on Tuesday. That's the Stan James Champion Hurdle at Cheltenham. Now, Ruby Walsh joins us on the line from Dublin Airport. He's about to head over to Prestbury Park. Ruby, was this a big decision for you?
Yeah, so look, in my little world it's a big decision. I suppose in the grand scheme of the world as a place it was a run-of-the-mill thing, but look, you can only ride one horse in any race, and you have to ride the one you think is going to win or hope can win, and for me that's Faugheen.
And was that the big deciding factor for you?
Yeah, you have to let your head rule your heart. So I would love to be on Hurricane Fly's back within the third champion hurdle, but I think the more realistic option is winning a first on Faugheen. And
sentiment goes out the window on these decisions, does it, Ruby?
I'm afraid it has to. I guess that's the way it is in all sport. Managers have to draw players and bring in new younger ones, and jockeys have to make those kind of decisions too.
I see Faugheen and Hurricane Fly both got some action on the track this morning. How was the journey over for them, and how did they get on there this morning?
Yeah, no, that's well. They obviously went yesterday, and there was 16 horses left the yard this morning, so I think Willie has about 30 there at this stage, and there's 8 or 10 to go tomorrow, and I think 17 or 18 to go on Tuesday. So it's a big logistical job to get them all there as well, but those that have gone thus far have travelled well and have all settled in well.
I know Friday and the Gold Cup is an age away. There's so much racing to be done between now and then, but do you have another big decision to make there?
Probably will. Willie is training the Gold Cup. I'd be leaning towards Cheltenham. I think the one that's causing me a headache on Friday is more the Triumph Hurdle, whether to ride Calcure or Di Cosimo, but as you said, Friday, one day is a long way away in racing, let alone 5.
27 championship races next week. Ruby, how many rides are you booked for?
About 16, I think, maybe 17. One or two that are borderline on the ballot, whether they'll get in or not. We won't know until the morning before with them, but there is 27 races. There's 3 amateur races and the cross-country race, which I don't ride in, is 23. So, somewhere around maybe 18 or 19. Just 4 or 5 races I won't be riding it.
It's a very testing and tough week, I'm sure, for you. Do you approach it in any different way to any other meetings in terms of preparation?
No, I suppose. I suppose the last maybe 10 days of that I haven't been taking too many rides. There's no point in getting this close and then getting hurt, so I've been minding myself, but that's about the only difference. I'd ride out every morning in Cheltenham as if I was at home and go to the races and ride them like it's another race, because at the end of the day that's all they are. I mean, the Supreme Novice is a 2-mile novice hurdle, the Champion Hurdle is a 2-mile conditions hurdle. They have glorified titles, but the races are still pretty much the same thing, so you block out the title and ride them as if they're normal races.
Sure, I'm not sure this. I think you might have 40 or 41, something like that, winners at Cheltenham. What's the secret behind your success around there? What's the key to winning down there?
Oh, it's simple. Just be on the best horse. It's quite easy. Once you're on the best horse, you have the best chance of winning. And I'm very lucky that I had 2 great jobs and still have 1 brilliant job. So if you can get on the best horses, you have a good chance of riding winners there.
Yeah, and on day 1, how many rides have you got?
4, just the 4 on day 1.
Just the 4.
They'll probably all be favourites, but the chance of 4 favourites winning the first day in Cheltenham is slim, and the chance of my 4 winning then is even slimmer. So,
well, who should we be on, Ruby, on day 1?
I can't pick a hole in any of them, but the stats will tell you that the favourites don't. That maybe 2, I think it's 1 in every 4 favourites rides wins. So if we can get 2 of those, you'd be going well. Favourite has a terrible record in the first, but I'm a huge fan of Duvance. I think Under Sue's an exceptionally good horse, and he's definitely the best horse in the race. I'd be happy with Faugheen, but the Champion Hurdle is the Champion Hurdle. He has to beat the new one, Jetski, and of course Hurricane Fly. I suppose definitely the ace in the pack would be Annie Power in the Mare's Hurdle. I think she's without doubt the best horse in the race.
And before we let you go, can you give our listeners this afternoon here on Sunday Sport one long shot maybe to keep an eye out for? Over
one long shot. Everyone wants the lotto ticket, don't they?
Don't let us down.
I'm not a fan. Long shots are long shots for a reason. I mean, they are 5 million or 6 million to 1 to win the lotto for a reason. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in telling someone that backing a 2 to 1 winner is way better than backing a 14 to 1 loser.
Okay.
And for that reason, I would tell people to back Fatur on Thursday in the JLT. I think he's a good price. He's about 5 to 2. I know it's 20 quid to win 50, but it's better than losing your 20 quid.
Okay, Ruby Walsh, We really appreciate you taking the call, as always, here on the show. Good luck next week.
Cheers, Aaron. Good luck.
That's always good to hear, Ruby Walsh. His honesty always appreciated on this show. That one is for sure. We're going to continue our Cheltenham preview. Before we chat to some of our guests here in studio, we're going to hear a little bit more maybe from some of the yards who will be travelling over to Cheltenham, because champion hurdler Jetski and his half-brother Jetson, both trained by Jetski Harrington, are major contenders for the champion hurdle and the world hurdle respectively at this year's festival. Both horses were bred by Jerry McGrath, and Dave Keena caught up with both Jetski and Jerry to discuss their hopes for this year's festival.
Down towards the final quarter mile. It is Jetski who strikes the lead. My Tent or Yours looms towards the inside. The final flight. Jetski's over in front, more fluent than My Tent or Yours in second. Hurricane Fly sees his title slipping in third. Jetski to My Tent or Yours. Here's the line. Jetski is the champion hurdler from My Tent or Yours. And then the new one. Hurricane Fly was back in fourth, and in fifth came Captain Seaman.
Jerry McGrath runs a small but select breeding operation at his base in Dunboyne in County Meath. He's the breeder of the reigning champion hurdler Jetski and his older half-brother Jetson. I caught up with him this week and I first asked him about Jetson, who he also owns, and the 10-year-old has matured into a genuine Grade 1 performer over the last 12 months.
He's been a most honest horse. Just after he was born, he contacted pneumonia, and it was touch and go. We were up all night feeding him Rifidin. It stunted his growth. That's why he's not as big as some of the others. But he pulled through. He's a very honest horse. We used to nickname him Puny. Though that's him, but he's got a big heart.
Beginning now to stay on. It's Quevega on the outside, but it's Jetson in front from Quevega, and Jetson has won it as Quevega has lost her grip in the race.
I think it's safe to say he was a surprise to everybody beating Quevega that time. You know, we had some tactics going out, and Davy Russell did a great job on him there. He stole a lead and kept it. Jetson was always too small. I felt he shouldn't be chasing, but after he hadn't, won a handicap and he kept coming second and they kept putting more weight on him, they felt there was nowhere else for him to go. But I still thought he showed so much promise as a hurdler that we went back hurdling, and it's paid the fruits now. His last two races, he's given everything, and when the ground gets better, I really feel he will push right to the line.
I was just going to say that the fact that he has been second in those two Grade 1 since Punchestown proved that result was no fluke, and Sandra Hughes' horse, Lieutenant Colonel, is certainly above average. He was a very good novice hurdler, and you must go to Cheltenham now both as a breeder and an owner of Jetson, with reasonable prospects of a big run from him in the World Hurdle.
One thing about Jetson is he will give every ounce. He will run right to the line, and the improving ground, I think, will stand to us against Lieutenant Colonel. So I feel, we've got a good chance against him, and I'm sure he has a good chance against everyone else. So I think things are looking good for us in the World Hurdle.
Jessica Harrington has trained both Jetski and Jetson throughout their racing careers, and between them they have won to date 7 Grade 1s. I spoke to her this week and I first asked her to compare both horses.
Well, they're really very different. Jetson's small and he's sort of workman-like, and he just gets on and does the job, and when he goes and he tries his heart out, he tries so hard in every single race that he runs in. He doesn't look anything like Jetski. He's much smaller and longer. Jetski's much more of a showman, a better, probably say, good-looking horse, flashy. But they both got the same trait. They try very, very hard, both of them. And they're both very good jumpers.
In front, on up the hill, it's Jetski, My Tent or Yours in second. Hurricane Fly isn't going to win it as they race towards the line. It's Jetski from My Tent or Yours, the new one coming with a fine rattle on the near side. Jetski, My Tent or Yours. Jetski wins it from My Tent or Yours, the new one third. Hurricane Fly.
And it must have been the highlight of your career when Jetski won the champion hurdle last year. He goes back there again this year to try and regain his crown. What kind of shape is he in?
I think he's as good as I can get him. He probably is as good as he was last year. I'm hoping he'll run as good a race, I think it is a very good champion hurdle. Then you read that Barry says the one last year was the best race he thought he'd ever ridden in. So, I don't know. Jockeys tend to say that sort of thing sometimes.
Yeah, Jessica Harrington there talking about the big race, the first big race of the festival, which is the Champion Hurdle. Looking ahead to all the action for us now are Leo Powell, managing editor of the Irish Field. And we also are getting the English view from Melissa Jones. She's the racing correspondent with the Gloucestershire Echo. She's on the line from the UK. Leo, we'll start with yourself. That Champion Hurdle, some heavyweights of Irish racing in there. Is this as good as an Irish banker we're going to get this week?
Well, you'd like to think so. We have 5 of the 8 that go to post, and we have 5 of the top 6 in the betting. The new one, I suppose, is a little overlooked over here, because I suppose the big question was, would Ruby ride Fahine or Hurricane Fly? Jetski goes back to defend his crown. And, we have 2 other runners, Arctic Fire and Kitten Rock, both of which could run into a place. Arctic Fire is one of my tips for a place bet to finish in the first 3. A difficult decision for Ruby in one sense, because his heart probably said stick with the old horse, but he had to go with Fahine. It's going to be a wonderful start to the meeting, and hopefully it'll be part of a memorable day for them.
And who are you going to win it?
I think Fahine has to be the favourite, and I think I would stick with Ruby's choice in going for him. I mean, I would cheer louder than anybody if Hurricane Fly were to come up that hill, and I think he literally would raise the roof at Prestbury Park. But Fahine, he's 9 for 9. He won at, people will keep saying, well, he hasn't been tested. Well, he'll be tested on Tuesday, and I think he'll be found to be the champion.
Melissa, are you going to give this one to us?
I'm not tipping Fahine actually, but I do think he is pretty solid at the head of the market. I mean, the other horses have got him to beat, and I think Ruby Walsh didn't really have. I know they say he did have a bit of a decision to make, but how can you get off such a short price favourite? Fahine does look the one they have to beat. But personally, it could be a bit of an Irish bloodbath for the bookmakers on day one with Annie Power, Fahine, Duval and Undersco. I mean, how many people will have those in multiples? But the champion hurdle, I think Fahine will be pretty close. But my money's on Jetski. I think you could do a lot worse than back Jetski for back-to-back champion hurdle victories. AP McCoy will be riding at the top of his game in his last Cheltenham Festival. He'll love the ground. He's proven over track and trip. And I think Jetski can take the 2015 champion hurdle.
That's a big shout. Some way to go out as well for AP McCoy, Melissa.
Well, there we go. I do think that AP will be at the top of his game. He'll be flying. He's been, ever since he announced his retirement, he seems to be riding every winner up and down the country in the UK, and he's going to go out with a bang at his last ever festival, I feel, and also got an outstanding chance in the Gold Cup on Carlingford Lock.
Well, we'll get to that in a moment. But one final question on the Tuesday, Leo. It really is. I think it's sort of one of those days where it's crucial to how the Irish get on, because we probably need to hit the ground running on Tuesday. Some other big races there as well, and the other ones to look out for on that day.
Yeah, it's definitely a day that sets the tone for the rest of the week, and indeed the first race does so. The anticipation before the flag fall on the first is wonderful. Duvan is going to carry a huge amount of hopes, and you'll immediately see the headlines. Despair if he's beaten, joy if he wins. I think he looks good in the first for sure. I'm not as confident about Ruby Zundisco in the Arkle, but I think Ruby has a very pragmatic approach to it. You can't win all 4 of them. If he does, it'll be a golden day, and he won't probably have any more like that into the future. Annie Power is nailed on in the Mayor's Hurl. She is outstanding. If she ran in the World Hurl, she'd have it won. It's interesting. Willie, speaking in the Irish Field last week, said that he does what's best for his horses, and he really has just picked this race because it's there to be won, and she's going to be 2-3 to 1 on the day, and she's home and hosed. And I think Noel Meade might get in on the act on the day with Very Wood in the National Hunt Chase as well.
Okay, let's move on to day 2, the Wednesday. The big one that day, the Betway Queen Mother Champion Chase. It does seem, Melissa, that Barry Geraghty and Sprinter Sacre, just from listening to people talking, that maybe Nicky Henderson's horse is the one to beat in this one.
There does seem a lot of confidence behind Sprinter Sacre, to be honest. I was speaking to Simon Clare from Coral the other day, and he said the results, if Sprinter Sacre does go in, will cost them over £1 million. And there's a lot of confidence behind Sprinter Sacre, of course, for the prevailing ground. It's going to be quick. It's going to suit him a lot. But personally, for me, I don't think Dodging Bullets and Sprinter Sacre, I don't think Sprinter will overturn the form with Dodging Bullets. Paul Nicholls' horse is the young improver, and I think you've got to stick with him. He's won the Tingle Creek, and then he beat Sprinter Sacre at Ascot. And for me, I don't think Sprinter Sacre does have the fight anymore. I think he's going to have to battle to win this, and I do think Dodging Bullets will have the upper hand again. I interviewed Noel Feely not long after, and he said that he did have something left at the end of that race. So if they both improve, what a spectacle it's going to be. And throw inside De Grugy, last year's champion, and it does look for all the world like a cracking race. And also you've got Champagne Fever representing the Irish, so what a race that's going to be.
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask you, Leo. From the Irish point of view, everybody's always going to be having a look. I was just having a look at the betting this morning. Champagne Fever, widely available, around 6-1. Any value in that?
I think there is certainly value in it. This, for me, actually, believe it or not, is one of the races of the festival. 2 miles at speed. There is nothing better. I think that it is one of the most exciting races. Sprinter Sacre, I suppose he's had an uncertain run up to this. Barry Geraghty is very bullish about the horse, and it's interesting to remind people that Barry has ridden one more festival winner than AP McCoy has done. Barry is on 31, AP is on 30. Barry doesn't get it wrong too often. I have great respect for him. I would have to say I'd probably agree with Melissa that Dodging Bullets is the value in the race, and I think he's a little overlooked in the fact that we've been talking about Sprinter Sacre and Sire de Grugy almost as a match race, and I think it is potentially one of the most exciting races of the festival, and probably my head says go for Dodging Bullets.
Melissa, if you were to pick out one other race that day and one other possible tip for the Wednesday, what are you looking at that day?
Well, to be honest, my money's been on Dodging Bullets from the start, and he has been my nap of the whole meeting, so I'm very much a case of that race is going to make or break Wednesday, and I haven't looked too far beyond that. I want to see a lot what the horses are going to be declared for certain races, but Dodging Bullets, the money's on, and hopefully he can deliver.
Okay.
And Leo, on to the Thursday. It's World Hurl Day. It looks like, and maybe you'll confirm this for me, one of the most open races of this year's festival. A difficult one to pick a winner here.
Yeah, especially for one of the sort of premier races of the festival and a Grade 1 race. I suppose the fact that My Tenter Yours is out, Annie Power goes elsewhere, has really, really opened it up. I mean, you're looking at 5-1 the field in this race, which is quite incredible. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of an Irish success here, and while we focused a little on the intro on Jetson or whatever, Lieutenant Colonel from Sandra Hughes' yard. Now, what result that would be. He certainly is in there with every chance. In the year, less than a year since her father died, and he, a great Cheltenham man, Desi Hughes, that would be a wonderful victory. And I think that the horse is a little under the radar. It probably takes a little bit of the pressure off, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sandra was in the winner's enclosure on Thursday.
Well, we'll wait and see. Melissa, I was out with Jerry McGrath. He's a local breeder here in Ireland, in Meath, and he bred Jetski, but he also owns and bred Jetson. So I think he wasn't giving too much away, to be honest. But what chance do you give me? I was going to stick a few quid on anyway. Jetson.
Well, I went to the Jessica Harrington media visit not long ago, a couple of weeks back, and there seemed to be a little wave of confidence about Jetson. He has been a sort of late improver, and he is sort of showing his worth now. And I think, you could do worse each way than back Jetson. He'll be staying on late. He's got that decent piece of form, I think, with Prevega. And he's a surprise package. But looking at the head of the market, you've got a very strong profile from the Paul Nicholls yard. You've got Safi de Rern, you've also got Zarkandar. It won't have been an easy choice for Sam Twiston-Davies to choose between the two. He's gone for potential with Safi de Rern. He thinks he'll win a Gold Cup on this horse. That's a tip in itself. I think he'll go close. But looking ahead to some of the outsiders, I think on the day, look for a bit of value, the double-figure prices each way, because this race is very open. It's definitely not a Paul Nicholls whitewash. Look for the value. Okay,
well, if that race is open, Leo, so many people have said to me that Friday's Gold Cup is certainly open as well. 18 runners in the field as it stands. A lot of people saying to me this is the most open Gold Cup that they can remember in the last few years. Do you agree?
I think it definitely is that for sure, and a lot is going to depend on weather conditions and how it plays out during the week. The forecast is for it to dry during the week, and it's interesting because I think this will play into the hands of two summer horses here in Ireland, two horses that have won the Galway Plate, and they are Road to Riches and Carlingford Lough. Of course, Carlingford Lough is the mount of AP McCoy, and there's going to be plenty of money on that, for sentiment reasons as much much as anything else. Noel Meade's horses are in tremendous form. He's had a wonderful February. His horses have been running out of their skin. You follow the yards as well where the form is, and his horses are just in tip-top form at the moment. Road to Riches has a wonderful chance. I still think we will get the fairy tale result. I think Carlingford Lough could do it. AP, as I say, is going to be riding out of his skin. Be a wonderful training feat for John Kiley down in Waterford, man well into his 70s, and to have this winner, and JP McManus, of course, like one of the great benefactors of national hunt racing. They've done it in the Grand National, they've done it with synchronised in the Gold Cup as well for AP, and why shouldn't he go out on a high?
Yeah, Melissa, no more than we love the 200-to-1 shot, we definitely love a fairy tale, don't we? I mean, you mentioned it from the outset, and do you think this is going to happen? Are we going to get that fairy tale?
I mean, we do, yes. I mean, a lot of fate happens in racing, doesn't it? You do get that fairy tale every now and again, and what better way to end a Cheltenham Festival than go out in glory on Carlingford Lough for AP McCoy. I like him as well. I do think it is possible. He's a really tough, proven performer in handicaps, like a few of these coming over from Ireland, and also Holywell, who spearheads the British Challenge with many clouds. And Carlingford Lough is proven in handicaps. You need that toughness in a horse in the Gold Cup. I thought he was impressive last time in the Irish Hennessy, stayed extremely well. McCoy's going to be throwing everything at him. I think he'll relish Cheltenham, the hurly-burly of a Gold Cup. He gets that from handicaps, that hurly-burly running through horses. He won't be afraid of that. And I think Carlingford Lough will definitely go close. I've personally taken a bit of 20-to-1. But don't forget the home challenge. I mean, you've got many clouds from Oliver Sherwood's yard, the Hennessy winner. He's pretty solid, but he would probably want a bit of rain. I don't think he'll be at his absolute best on the quicker surface. And of course, John Joe O'Neill's Holywell. He trains just down the road from our offices in Gloucestershire, in the heart of Cheltenham. And I do think Holywell, John Joe is a master for the main day, and I think he'll be bringing Holywell to the boil, and he'll definitely be up there at the finish.
Okay, we do need to wrap this up, but before we go, I just wanted to ask both of you for if you had a Cheltenham banker and possibly in each way. So Leo, you first. Just as Darren says, we want a nice price for our listeners here. Well, a banker and one each way.
Well, of course, it'd be very easy to go and say, listen, you're going to make your money in 20 minutes with any power going a 3-to-1 on. But for most people, that's not terribly realistic. I have a great fancy for, I know that Ruby is very keen on Vautour on Thursday. Apache Stronghold for me from the Noel Meade yard. I love the way he won at Leopardstown recently. He's a horse that's been running consistently at that top level, probably not showing his very, very best all the time. But I think Noel has him right now. He's a horse that he's always held in high regard, and I think he, for me, is going to be one of my bets of the meeting. And the other horse I quite like, there are two other horses I'll give you. Vigil in the Champion Bumper. Dermot Well goes back with him. He won the race last year with Silver Concord. This horse won at Leopardstown at Christmas. He's kept him for this race. Pat Smullen in the saddle, which would be an interesting one. Finney Maguire won on him at Leopardstown, and I think he's going to be valued at about 10-to-1. And watch for Tony Martin's Quick Jack in the handicap hurl. I think on Friday, the county hurl, he goes in that one. He'd be a great each way bet as well.
Melissa, your tips of the festival?
My main nap is dodging bullets, as previously discussed. I'm very keen on dodging bullets in terms of
we're getting that.
You are maintaining the form, whispered to Sacra. Yeah, it's going to make or break my festival, as we've said. So I do think he'll put it up to all of them there in Wednesday's Champion Chase. As an outsider, I think Eastlake is interesting in the race named after AP McCoy, the Grand Annual, the last race of the festival. I do think that perhaps McCoy might choose Eastlake over the favourite Ned Buntline. It'll be very interesting to see whether he does or not. But I've taken an
Leo's
Eastlake
shaking his head here.
No, I'm sorry, Melissa. He'll ride Ned Buntline. He's going to let his head rule his heart, I think, in this one.
You think? But nevertheless, like I said before, John Joe O'Neill is a master at getting horses to their peak for the big day, and I think Eastlake come down a few pounds in the handicap. You could do worse than take sort of 16-to-1 about him. And those two really are my picks for the festival.
Melissa,
and it's going to be a great spectacle.
Yeah, well, as it always will be. Melissa, great talking to you. Enjoy the week and don't work too hard over there. Leo, thanks for coming into studio and thanks for all your advice. Looking forward to all the racing live here on RTE Radio.